As a child, Angelina was a very thin girl, but because of not eating right, or maybe because of disease, she began to rapidly gain weight. At the age of 22, the girl reached 150 kilograms. In spite of her weight, the girl was very kind and sympathetic and could do any work despite the hardships. But because of her extra weight, she got in a difficult situation. Angelina could not find a job. No matter how many times she looked, she was rejected everywhere. It's hard to find a job with such a huge weight, even if you have a good education. Everyone just wants slim and beautiful girls. One day, Angelina came home once again, crying. She lay down on her bed. And she asked, "Mom, why do people treat me like this?" Her mother answered, "I told you that you should go on a diet. But you never listened to me. No one will accept you for who you are. Just wake up." Angelina spent about a month at home, depressed that nothing was working out in her life. And she had tried to lose weight many times before, but always failed. A friend of hers tried to comfort her, and she worked hard to find her a job. As time passed, she told her, I found the right job for you. You should try. Don't give up." Angelina listened to her friend and went to a famous company where she was supposed to get a job in finance because she had a degree in finance. But everything went as usual. The head of the financial did not want to hire her, but when Angelina stepped into the office to prove that she could handle any difficulties and she really needed the job, a young man of about 25 who was dressed in a dark, austere suit and very good-looking. Hearing that she wasn't right for them, he pulled the department head aside and quietly said, "You should give her a chance. We don't care at all about people's looks and weight here. What matters is the ability and willingness to work. I can see that she is a hard-working girl. We need people like that." The head of the department manager agreed with the young man's arguments. He gave Angelina a chance to prove herself, and the girl confidently passed the exam and proved that she is worthy to work in that position. After that, Angelina came out of the office and saw this cute guy in the hallway and approached. And she said, "I don't even know what to say. Thank you so much for helping me. Because of you, I'm working for this company now." The young man replied, "You are an excellent worker and will be useful to our company. Besides, you are a very beautiful girl and you should be more appreciative of your inner world." The girl was very happy to hear those words. She had not heard such nice compliments in years. Compliments she had not heard for many years. After these words, the girl gained confidence. Angelina started working for a new company and quickly proved to be an excellent financier. By that time, she had learned that the young man who had gotten her the job was the owner of the company. Knowing the assets of the company, Angelina was shocked how, at such a young age, to have made such a huge fortune. As time passed, her confidence quickly disappeared because everyone in the office laughed at her and called her fat. One day she overheard her colleague in the next office said, "That girl looks like a hippo." The other girl replied, Yeah, she looks like a pig. I don't think anybody would marry her." One guy said, "She'll never have kids if she doesn't lose weight." These words hurt the girl, and she cried, ran to her office. The owner of the company was walking down the corridor and saw her running into his office with tears in her eyes. Angelina ran into his office with tears in her eyes. He went to his office and heard the girl crying. He knocked and entered the office. When he saw the crying girl, he began to comfort her. "I know why you crying. Don't pay attention to what others say. Let them speak ill of themselves. You must concentrate on yourself and love yourself." Don't listen to anyone. You are a very beautiful girl and you deserve the best in life. After the girl calmed down, the guy suggested, "We can go for a walk after work." Angelina didn't take long to agree, and they had a great night together. Thomas explained to the girl how he got such great company that his parents were no longer alive because they had died in a car accident, leaving him alone. Thomas, after talking with the girl, felt sympathy. For him, it has always been more important to him than anything else. The young people began to spend more time together, and Thomas felt he decided to declare his love for her, but he was afraid to do so. It is always difficult to confess one's love to someone. especially if one has lost confidence due to being overweight. Thomas said, "Angelina, I feel like I'm in love with you and I can't live without you. And I know, you won't believe me, but it's true." Like Thomas said, the girl didn't believe him. But when she thought about it, she realized it really was love. Confused, she said, "Give me time to think it over." Thomas replied, "Take as much time as you need to think." Several days passed. The girl didn't know what to do. Some doubt took her. She didn't want to be abandoned. But a friend advised her, "Give him a chance. He must really love you. As for your weight, you need to go on a diet and take care of yourself. I'll help you." Angelina replied, "I've tried to diet before, but I always gave up. I don't understand why. He loves me if I'm not like all these beautiful girls in the office. I'm fat, clumsy without. I can't walk 50 meters without shortness of breath," she thought. "Why does he love me?" A friend answered her, "He loves you, not just the way you look. He loves your inner world, and that is the most important thing." The girl agreed to give Thomas a chance to prove his love, and he was very happy. Finally, the day came when he said, "I want to marry you." On reflection, Angelina replied, "This is a very serious step. I cannot take such a responsibility." In fact, the girl was worried that she is so fat and did not want to somehow embarrass her future husband. But Thomas insisted, and Angelina said, "I agree." But she also added, "I wonder what people will say when they see us together." Thomas replied, "That's the problem with those people who judge by appearances. But we'll get through this together." Thomas and Angelina sometime later, they got married. They didn't have a big wedding and invited only close family and friends. They posted their photos on social media, and their friends appreciated them. But the unexpected happened. The couple's photos went viral, being posted in various groups with slogans. "Looks aren't important." People laughed at the photos. It didn't take long until these.
Привет, с вами Женя. Это специальное видео для закрытого телеграм-канала Secret YouTube Room. Сегодня я по многочисленным просьбам покажу, как можно использовать софт, как его установить, что нужно делать, если вылетает софт, какие есть подводные камни. Это будет достаточно простой гайд, просто базовые какие-то функции. Дальше вы можете сами покликать, разобраться после того, как посмотрите этот гайд. Собственно говоря, сейчас я нахожусь в Дискорде. Это видео записывает для вас мой друг. И по причине того, что софт работает только на английской версии Windows. У меня сейчас нет возможности и времени все это ставить, поэтому мы решили просто с ним созвониться. Я сейчас буду ему говорить, что делать, и он как раз вам покажет под мои слова, как этим всем пользоваться и что куда нажимать. Смотрите, если у вас нет возможности поставить английскую версию Windows, то есть переустановить ее, вы можете зайти в Google и написать там VDS, открой Google. Вот, VDS — это виртуальный сервер. Можете тоже посмотреть видео, как арендовать виртуальный сервер. Это стоит недорого, 200-300 рублей. Арендуете виртуальный сервер с английской Windows, можете к нему подключаться удаленно. То есть у вас такое же окно, только удаленно. И на этом удаленном сервере, например, все это делать, если у вас будут проблемы с переустановкой Windows на английский язык. Да. Так, ну а теперь перейдем к софту. Открывай папку. Разархивируй все это на рабочий стол. А когда вы будете разархивировать, вас попросит пароль. Пароль находится также в Телеграме, вот, ниже поста, где вы скачивали данную программу. Окей, мы ввели пароль. Все, программа у нас открывается. Открывай папку. Запускай VQP внизу, красненький. Смотрите, нам сейчас надо будет ввести в окне появившемся New User 1, да, вот здесь в первом, New, нижнее подчеркивание, User 1, и нажать Down Up, да, вот эту кнопку. Можете через переводчик почекать, это все на вьетнамском, что есть что, но в основном будем пользоваться первой вкладкой, Full Man, нажимай. В основном используем эту вкладку, каждая плюс-минус выполняет какие-то похожие функции, что-то для стримов, что-то также для рендера, но в основном пользуемся вот этим. Выбирай Input Type. Здесь вы можете увидеть, что можно загружать даже сразу линк YouTube, то есть вставлять ссылку, но, скажу честно, оно не особо хорошо работает, иногда работает, иногда нет, поэтому просто выбирайте мой компьютер, скачивайте заранее видео, которое вы хотите прогнать через софт, зарендерить. У нас для примера есть анимация, да. Все, и выбирайте, куда оно будет у вас аутпутиться. То есть выход обязательно выбирайте, иначе у вас ничего будет работать. Здесь у нас есть всякие настройки. Давайте поговорим сразу про пресеты. Setting Render. То есть вот в этой вкладке Render Type существуют разные пресеты. Экспериментируйте, пробуйте использовать разные пресеты и смотрите, что у вас будет получаться. Честно говоря, под каждое видео нужно подбирать вообще индивидуальные настройки. Просто тыкайте, рендерите и смотрите, как оно будет получаться. Так как срезается качество, срезается звук, так, в принципе, должно у нас быть, но мы добиваемся идеального качества. Выделим Movies, например, выделим Full HD. Вот здесь также вон слева, где Color Key и так далее, лого, мы можем прикреплять что-то поверх, допустим, авторку, качаете green screen, вот слева под output видео, вот здесь вот все это делается. Допустим, качаете green screen какого-то человека, который говорит, или нейросеть, может быть, слышали, где человек как бы говорит в кадре что-то, можете подставлять прямо поверх видео, как будто у вас реальный человек говорит, и так как бы у вас будет больше шансов, что видео не забанят и так далее, как авторский контент с лицом. Лицо — это очень нелояльно для Ютуба и все прочее. Можно поверх сразу накладывать. Собственно говоря, после всего этого покопайтесь еще в настройках, покликайте параметры, нажимаем, да, вот на Max галочку, снизу выбираем тоже галочку рендерить вот этот файл, можно сразу рендерить видосов 10 и нажимаем просто старт. Все, у нас пошла загрузка. Если бы у вас была русская Windows сейчас, у вас бы просто вылетел софт на этом моменте. То есть в этом вся причина, если у вас вылетает программа. Пробуйте на разных компьютерах или вот в VDS-очку, или на английской версии Windows. Действительно, если у вас легко поменять, или можете переустановить, делайте. Все, у нас получился видос, открывай, давай посмотрим. Скорее всего, сейчас будет не совсем хорошее качество. Хотя, в принципе, да, видите, немножко он битый. Это все последствия софта, но на самом деле вы можете потыкать в настройках. Да, вот так выглядит оригинальный видос. Потыкать в настройках и добиться реально максимально хорошего качества. Может быть, как-то звук будет искажен, может быть, иногда что-то будет приближаться. В принципе, так и должно это работать. И много каналов, кто перезаливает какой-то контент, делает даже вот с таким плохим качеством, вообще не заморачиваясь, и у них это все набирает просмотры. В общем-то, примерно так все это работает. Пробуйте, экспериментируйте с настройками и смотрите, как будет меняться видос. Пробуйте загружать, смотреть, палит, не палит у вас Content ID. И да, в другие вкладки очень похожи по функционалу. В принципе, то же самое. Есть что-то еще для стримов, но, честно говоря, тоже с этим не работал, не могу вам особо ничего про это рассказать. А про сам софт как-то вот так все это рендерится и работает.
In 150, 3 years ago, a Suez Canal with a total length of about 164 kilometers was officially opened, and world trade has undergone earth-shaking changes as a result. As the most direct sea transportation channel between Europe and Asia, the Suez Canal has carried about 1.4 million ships in 1.5 centuries, with an average of 51.5 ships passing here every day, one of the busy shipping lanes. As of 2021, the total cargo volume of the Suez Canal has exceeded 25.5 billion tons, generating more than 150 billion US dollars in revenue for Egypt. But now Egypt wants to use the canal to solve the current problem in the project plan to save the Suez Canal. Egypt directly excluded the United States, hoping to hand over the $4.5 billion worth of projects to China for completion. So how will the $4.5 billion Suez Canal project be completed? Why did Egypt directly exclude the United States as a partner, as one of the most important canals in the world? The Suez Canal has played a very important role in world trade. However, with the rapid development of the world shipping industry, there will be more maritime trade cooperation among countries. According to the current carrying capacity of Suez Canal, it will be difficult to meet the shipping needs of countries all over the world in the future. If there is a serious accident in the Suez Canal, it will also bring great losses to Egypt, and it will also have a serious impact on global trade and transportation. In 2021, a cargo ship named Chansey unfortunately ran aground while passing through the Suez Canal because the cargo ship transported was very huge. The entire canal was directly blocked in just 6 days. More than 400 freighters were unable to pass through the canal. In addition, most of the freighters traveling on the canal on this road are transporting oil exported from the Middle East to Western Europe. So when the canal was blocked, the price of oil in many countries began to rise sharply. Some professionals have calculated that after the Suez Canal is blocked, it will cause a loss of $9.6 billion a day, and an average of $400 million will be lost in 1 hour. This has had a great impact on Egypt and other countries, and Egypt has taken a lot of responsibility for it. Through this cargo ship grounding accident, Egypt also discovered that there are many problems in the Suez Canal. For example, the channel width of the canal is narrow, and the infrastructure on both sides of the river is also very backward, and Suez Canal has a very important position in the whole world, and freighters from various countries basically pass here. To avoid similar accidents in the future, Egypt must solve these problems of Suez Canal. Therefore, the Egyptian state plans to invest about $4.5 billion to save the Suez Canal in the future. The plan includes widening the river and upgrading some outdated infrastructure. Only in this way can the canal meet the greater demand of world shipping in the future. But it is a pity that Egypt's technology in upgrading canals is not mature, and their country has no relevant experience in upgrading canals. Under such circumstances, Egypt can only hand over the task of upgrading the Suez Canal to other countries. At present, among the countries in the world, the United States and China are the countries most capable of upgrading the canal. This also means that Egypt is likely to choose a partner between China and the United States. But from the current situation, we can find that the Egyptians are not at ease to allow the Americans to upgrade the Suez Canal. Why is this? I believe everyone knows that the United States once built the Panama Canal, which is famous all over the world. Today, the Panama Canal has become an important waterway connecting the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, and it is also known as the Golden Waterway. In the past so many years, the Panama Canal has always maintained a normal operation state, and there have been no serious problems, such as grounding. If other factors are not considered, the United States obviously has a greater cooperation advantage with Egypt, because the United States not only has the successful experience of the Panama Canal, but also has relatively mature technology for upgrading and building. So if it is just to upgrade the Suez Canal, the technical team in the United States will definitely be able to do it. Handy, but Egypt is not worried about these problems since the Panama Canal was built by the Americans. The canal has been under the control of the United States for a century. The United States will even have a permanent monopoly on operating the canal, which has led to the people of Panama who have been fighting to regain the sovereignty of the canal. Until then, from the perspective of the United States, the Panama Canal has a very important position for all countries in the world. Almost every country's maritime trade flows through the Panama Canal. So when the United States took control of the Panama Canal, they adopted a variety of methods to earn extra profits from it. For example, when the United States cooperates with some Western countries, they will specifically increase the charging items, which has also caused dissatisfaction in other countries. In addition, the United States will also put forward some unequal additional conditions at the most exaggerated time. The United States will also interfere in the internal affairs of other countries through the Panama Canal. It is for this reason that some countries have caused sovereignty issues to be violated by the United States. Against this background, Egypt is very afraid that similar incidents will happen to its own country. Therefore, after comprehensive consider action, Egypt is not willing to hand over Suez Canal to the United States, and China may become the only partner. So what advantages does China have over Egypt? First of all, in recent years, the relationship between China and Egypt has become very close, and the achievements of cooperation between the two countries have also become more prominent. Basically, every important exchange between the two countries will strengthen the field of cooperation in the future. The new Cairo capital project, which Egypt is now proud of, was built with the help of Chinese companies. The landmark building of the new Cairo capital project, the CBD Tower, is now known as the tallest building in Africa. However, when the project was built, there were still many problems and challenges as the capital of Egypt. Cairo has a population of more than 20 million. In addition, it is an out-and-out ancient city. If you want to build a new Cairo city, It will undoubtedly be very difficult to break the limit of population pressure without causing any damage during construction. But China has not flinched from these difficulties. After careful thinking, China has successfully completed the construction of the new Cairo project with a speed and quality that have been recognized by the world. In addition, thousands of Chinese working in the Egyptian country are also very friendly and have never caused other troubles to Egypt with such a good impression. Egypt will naturally trust China even more from its heart. Therefore, under comprehensive consideration, Egypt is likely to allow China's infrastructure team to be responsible for the Suez Canal upgrade project. For Egypt, Suez Canal is the key to their future destiny. The former Suez Canal has brought huge benefits to Egypt, and at the same time it has also improved Egypt's status in the world. Now Egypt is willing to spend $4.5 billion to upgrade the Suez Canal more perfectly. Such an important Suez Canal rescue plan cannot allow any mistakes. Of course, regardless of whether Egypt will eventually choose to cooperate with China on this project, it cannot affect the current relationship between the two countries in other fields. Egypt has also become inseparable from China. I believe that the future development of the two countries will also go in a better direction. In 153 years ago, a Suez Canal, with a total length of about 164 kilometers, was officially opened, and world trade has undergone earth-shaking changes as a result. As the most direct sea transportation channel between Europe and Asia, the Suez Canal has carried about 1.4 million ships in 1.5 centuries, with an average of 51.5 ships passing here every day, one of the busy shipping lanes. As of 2021, the total cargo volume of the Suez Canal has exceeded 25.5 billion tons, generating more than $150 billion in revenue for Egypt. But now Egypt wants to use the canal to solve the current problem in the project plan to save the Suez Canal. Egypt directly excluded the United States, hoping to hand over the $4.5 billion worth of projects to China for completion. So how will the $4.5 billion Suez Canal project be completed? Why did Egypt directly exclude the United States as a partner, as one of the most important canals in the world? The Suez Canal has played a very important role in world trade. However, with the rapid development of the world shipping industry, there will be more maritime trade cooperation among countries. According to the current carrying capacity of Suez Canal, it will be difficult to meet the shipping needs of countries all over the world in the future. If there is a serious accident in the Suez Canal, it will also bring great losses to Egypt, and it will also have a serious impact on global trade and transportation. In 2021, a cargo ship named Chansey unfortunately ran aground while passing through the Suez Canal because the cargo ship transported was very huge. The entire canal was directly blocked in just 6 days. More than 400 freighters were unable to pass through the canal. In addition, most of the freighters traveling on the canal on this road are transporting oil exported from the Middle East to Western Europe. So when the canal was blocked, the price of oil in many countries began to rise sharply. Some professionals have calculated that after the Suez Canal is blocked, it will cause a loss of $9.6 billion a day, and an average of $400 million will be lost in 1 hour. This has had a great impact on Egypt and other countries, and Egypt has taken a
Thanks to his wealthy parents, Kevin received the best education his country could offer. In his country, Kevin's parents were successful in business and had a company which brought in a good income. At the age of 35, the couple made their first million, and soon their son Kevin was born. The baby made his parents very happy in spite of the fact that since childhood he was surrounded by luxury and wealth. The boy grew up to be kind and just. Much of the credit for this went to his nanny, who taught him to treat people around him with respect, regardless of their social status and financial standing. Thanks to his education, the young man got a job at a company owned by his father. Just a year later, he took a well-paid executive position, but father did not promote him in any way, because the family ties in the business for him did not. In the business meant nothing to him. so Kevin was promoted quite deservedly, showing better results in his work. He understood that in the future the entire company was to be under his control, and so he worked tirelessly. Tirelessly. In his spare time, he was engaged in charity work and considered it very important to be socially responsible to the community at large. Kevin helped orphanages and organizations that helped the homeless. But despite all his son's successes, his parents were worried about him. After all, their son was still unmarried and constantly putting his personal life on hold. One night at dinner, at Kevin's family home with his mother, a conversation ensued. "Son, we're not young anymore. We'd like so much. Son, we're not young anymore. We'd love to have grandchildren. Would you deny us that joy?" The woman said, "Don't worry, Mom, I'm still young enough to get married," replied the son. During his time at university, he had had quite a few girls, but Kevin had never seen any of them as his wife. But despite all these failures, Kevin continued to believe that he could find a decent girl who him and his parents would be thrilled, so he didn't force the issue. One night he was spending time with his friends at a cafe, when suddenly the phone rang, his mother calling. Leaving his friends behind, he went outside to talk on the phone. After talking, he was walking back to his table when suddenly he ran into a stranger. "Ah, forgive me, I'm so clumsy," the girl said. It's okay, it's my fault," replied Kevin. "I should have been more careful." The young men looked at each other and laughed, looking at each other. When they both calmed down, Kevin suggested that the girl meet and have dinner together, and she gladly agreed. After exchanging phone numbers, they parted, looking at each other's footsteps. For the rest of the evening, the boy couldn't stop thinking about his meeting with the stranger. With an absent-minded smile, his thoughts were very far away. The next day, Kevin called the girl and, convinced of her interest, reminded her once more about dinner. The young man came to the meeting with a huge bouquet and immediately won the heart of a stranger. The girl's name was Mary, and she, like Kevin, was from a wealthy family. During dinner, Mary told him that she had studied in Europe and had lived there for several years. Upon learning that the girl was also involved in charity work in her spare time, Kevin was finally fascinated. He was ready to grab the girl in his arms and never let her go again. The time flew by quickly. At parting, the boy asked her if he could walk her home, but she immediately changed the subject. After dinner, the young people left the restaurant together, and the girl hailed a cab and drove away. After that, Kevin and Mary saw each other more and more frequently, and a relationship began to develop between them. Soon, Kevin's mother became interested. She suggested that her son cook dinner and invite his girlfriend over to meet him. To the boy's surprise, the girl happily agreed to meet his parents. The dinner went off in a very warm atmosphere. The parents were fascinated by the girl their son had chosen. Mary was not only beautiful, but also intelligent. The evening passed quickly. A little more time passed, and the couple in love decided to live together. Kevin's parents were delighted and gave the couple a luxurious apartment where the girl happily moved in. When Kevin found out that his fiancée was helping the homeless and orphans, he offered to transfer money into her account. So he freed up his time and at the same time, while continuing to do charity work by entrusting the money to the person closest to him, thinking that Mary would use it more properly. The young man was very sympathetic to the unfortunate orphans and admired what his fiancée was doing. But one day, an incident occurred that made Kevin doubt Mary and her actions. One day, when the boy was coming home late from work, he saw Mary coming out of the house, who, without noticing him, went into the store. At the same time, some beggar approached her, asking for money, but she, looking at the tramp with contempt, answered him rudely. Kevin could not hear exactly what she said to the tramp, but it was evident from her face that nothing good. Kevin really didn't like what his fiancée did, but he pretended not to notice it. At first, Kevin did not pay much attention to the situation, but doubt settled in his soul. The guy thought his fiancée's behavior was very strange. Kevin decided to call the orphanage. The orphanage Mary was helping, but they told him they didn't know anything about any help they supposedly received from his fiancée. Then an angry Kevin asked Mary what was going on. She calmly replied that there had probably been a mistake and the food parcels had gone to another orphanage. The boy found Mary's explanation very suspicious, so he decided to find out. Before his wedding day came around, Kevin contacted a private agency. He had been recommended by a friend. After listening carefully to the young man, the detective said, "Well, in order to find out the truth, I'm offering you a makeover. It will not be difficult, but you will have to put on makeup and become an actor for a while." Kevin sighed sadly and agreed. After hours of work of professional makeup artists, the guy turned into a real hobo. Then, following instructions, the young businessman sat down on the street not far from their house and waited for his fiancée. The detective sat in the car and filmed everything that happened between the disguised guy and his girlfriend. When Mary appeared, Kevin approached her with his hand outstretched and began insistently begging for alms. "Get out of here, you stinking tramp. You won't get a cent from me. Go somewhere else," Mary exclaimed, pushing the beggar away. "How is that possible? All this time she's been..." "Deceived me," thought the lad, fearing that the makeup would leak from the tears that had in his eyes, so he quickly withdrew. "Keep acting like nothing happened, as if you didn't know anything. I'll give you a report soon," said the detective. When the young businessman came in for the result of his work, the detective laid before him a report of the work done. It turned out that Mary was a crook who was looking for rich men to extort money from them under the guise of charity. Her parents were alcoholics, not the wealthy businessmen she said they were. But there was a grain of truth. Mary did live in Europe, where she had married. Her husband was very rich, and during her marriage she was able to get a good education. However, her husband was a very clever man. He at once drew up a marriage contract whereby Mary received nothing of his fortune, only a small amount of money, which he gave her for the first time to live in. So, the girl returned to her homeland and began to look for other wealthy men. After listening to the story of the detective, Kevin turned pale and then asked to be made up as a pauper again. The made-up man went to his fiancée's house. When Mary opened the door and saw the beggar, her first impulse was to call the police, but when the man began to wash off his makeup, the girl cried out in surprise and covered her face with her hands. She realized what was going on and didn't even try to explain herself. From her eyes, Kevin knew at once that everything he had been told was true. He told her she had 24 hours to leave the apartment and forever, out of his life, or he would go to the police. The whole situation was a shock to the guy. He shut himself away for 6 months and worked like hell to forgive himself. But it wasn't long before Kevin recovered when he met a nice girl, Alice, who worked at the firm that worked with their company. The relationship developed very slowly, but after a year, Kevin found out his girlfriend was pregnant. They didn't wait long to get married. And finally the guy found the family he had dreamed of, had a loving, beautiful wife, and soon had a son who was a carbon copy of him. Kevin's parents were just as happy. They were proud of their son and were crazy about their grandson. Write in comments, what do you think about this story? Also, click on these videos to watch about other shocking stories. Alice Nelson was surrounded by luxury from childhood. Her parents were wealthy and engaged in business. They did all they could to ensure that their adored daughter did not need anything. Few girls' classmates could boast of having a personal driver and a nanny who would devote all her time to them. And Alice had it all. But no matter what, the Nelson couple tried to raise their daughter right and not indulge in silly whims. They wanted their beloved daughter to understand that everything in life she must achieve on her own, not with the help of those closest to her. The couple did everything so that the girl could count on a brilliant future. They had opened an account. They had opened an account for their daughter from her birth, where they put a considerable amount of money to pay for the girl's future education at a top university. Alice's life went on smoothly and predictable. The girl did not even know that life could be different, but soon something happened that dramatically changed her life. The day started out perfectly normal. Nothing foretold that was about to happen. In the morning, Brandon's driver drove the Nelson couple to their office and then returned home to take Alice to school. After that, the driver went to run errands for his boss, stopped at the car service to change the oil in the car, and then picked Alice up from school and drove her home. After a quick cup of coffee, the driver went to pick up the Nelson couple from the office, as their day's work was drawing to a close. But that wasn't all Brandon had to do. Really, he still had a lot of work to do that day. The driver was very anxious about the fact that on this day the driver had to, before taking Alice to class, first take Sonora Nelson to the airport. This trip was unplanned. The man had to fly urgently to one of the branch on the other side of the country because of unexpected problems there. When Brandon returned from the airport, he was already very tired. The man put Alice in the back seat of the car and drove her to additional assignments. He felt exhausted and couldn't concentrate on the road. Because of the pain in his head, because of the trip to the airport, Brandon and Alice were already late for class. So the driver had to drive very fast. His fatigue made it impossible for him to brake in time. Before a sharp curve, and the car went off the road and crashed outside the guardrail, falling next to a building under construction. The accident scene was littered with sharp bricks, metal bars, and construction debris. The damage caused the car to leak fuel. Before picking up Alice, Brandon had just filled the car's tank completely. The gasoline began to drip onto the asphalt. The situation was out of control and getting more and more dangerous. It's unclear exactly how the spark that caused the gasoline to ignite. Fortunately, there was a bus stop near the building under construction. Since the time was not too late, there were many people there who witnessed this terrible accident. Look, the fuel tank is leaking. It's quite likely that the car is about to explode. People shouted, not knowing what to do. Some approached the car to try to help, but when they saw the flames, they got scared and retreated. No, it's impossible to go near the car. I can't even think about that. The car will burst into flames at any moment, like a match, said eyewitnesses who approached the scene of the accident, but did not dare approach to the car. At the time, all hell was breaking loose in the car. The driver was unconscious, and the little girl was desperately banging on the window of the door. Because of the accident, the passenger door was blocked, and Alice could not get out of the car on her own. Passengers at the bus stop watched in horror, watching with horror, some crying, some calling an ambulance and the fire department. Suddenly, out of the crowd, some man came out, put a hood over his head, and headed resolutely toward the burning car. Has he lost his mind? He's just going to die and not have time to save anyone, came a woman's voice, but the guy walked confidently, as if he had no fear. He was dressed in old, tattered clothes and looked like a homeless man. But despite his appearance, he had a noble heart. As he approached the car, he picked up a pipe from the ground and, showing the girl to move away, broke the glass. After that, wasting no time, he pulled the girl out of the car. At that moment, his hair and hood caught fire, but the brave fellow didn't even notice, rushing to get the girl as far away from the car as possible. A few seconds later, the fire reached the fuel tank, and there was an explosion behind the young man and the girl he had rescued. The explosion threw them aside. At that moment, a man ran up to them and called. At that moment, a man ran to the fire department, and the ambulance grabbed the girl in his arms and carried her to the ambulance. The boy, who had saved Alice, knocked the flames from his sweatshirt and hair and walked quickly away from the scene. All attention was on the little girl, so no one noticed that her savior was gone. The doctors examined Alice and found nothing life-threatening, just a couple of minor burns. However, in order to make sure the girl was okay, the doctors took her to the hospital for a few days to keep her under observation. The whole time she was being checked, she was looking around asking, "Where is the man who saved me? Why don't I see him anywhere? See him anywhere?" At this point, no one was listening to the girl. Everyone was only concerned about her well-being. The hospital, the girl couldn't stop crying, thinking about what had happened to Brandon. To her, the driver was the best friend she spent a lot of time with. Besides, Alice couldn't stop thinking about the man who had saved her in that terrible accident. Who was he? What was his name? In spite of the fact, the girl kept asking her parents to find her rescuer. All her searches were unsuccessful. As time passed, this accident that Alice was in changed her life forever. Since then, the girl began to think of nothing but helping those around her. When she turned 15, she joined to a volunteer organization dedicated to helping homeless people. It was a job Kate loved. She was happy that she could do something good. At the age of 25, she set up a charity on her own, set up a charitable foundation, and in addition to her money, there were donations from other people who were interested in helping the poor. The foundation set up its own canteen and even medical center, where people with health problems could get help from qualified doctors. One day, as Alice was putting food on plates, she saw a thin man with a long scar from burn on his face. The man stopped in front of the entrance, rubbing an old cap in his hands. The girl was embarrassed, approached him and asked, "Excuse me, can I help you? You have a scar on your face. Does it hurt?" The stranger looked Alice over from head to toe and said, "Señorita, I would be very grateful to you if you would give me a bowl of hot soup and a couple of slices of bread. Don't worry about the scar. It doesn't give me any trouble. I got it 15 years ago when I saved a girl from a car. Believe me, I'm used to people being horrified and disgusted by my face." Excited, Alice touched the stranger's hand and said in a trembling voice, "I'm that girl you saved me 15 years ago. I've been looking for you for so many years. Why did you disappear so quickly then?" Hearing this, the stranger smiled embarrassedly and, wiping away involuntarily running tears, began to tell his story. His name was Josh, and he had lived on the streets most of his life. The man didn't know his parents and had grown up in an orphanage. As a child, to get by, he began stealing groceries from the supermarket, and this soon got him in trouble with the local police. That's why he left the scene so quickly. He was afraid he would get in trouble with the police. I don't know how to thank you for what. I don't know how to thank you for what you did. Can I give you some money? I have a lot of money, so you can buy yourself a house and you won't have to live on the street anymore, suggested Kate. But the man shook his head negatively and said that he was used to living on the streets and he didn't need the money. But Alice didn't give up so easily. Instead of money, she offered him a job with an organization, so the man could count on a hot meal every day, a place to sleep, and a wage for his work. The man's face brightened, and Alice realized her offer was accepted. After all he had been through, the homeless man dreamed of a family he had never had. Now, helping others, just as he had once been, the man felt part of a large family of volunteers in which he was cared for. Write in comments, what do you think about this story? Also, click on these videos to watch about other shocking stories.
A high-speed maglev train from China was displayed to the public in September 2022 at the Berlin Transportation Technology Exhibition in Germany. Its top speed is 600 kilometers per hour. It is not only the world's fastest high-speed maglev train, but also the most technologically advanced super train in China. When taking this train from San Francisco in the United States and arriving in Los Angeles in approximately an hour, we can only fathom how astonishing the speed is. It's unfortunate that this high-speed maglev train only debuted in 2019, as it has done for the past 3 years. Why can't China's high-speed maglev train be used on a regular basis? Before we go on, subscribe to Cha News to watch about the most shocking and amazing world projects. You won't regret it. Ready? Let's begin. Let me first describe what a high-speed maglev train is to you. Strong magnetism can be used to move a high-speed maglev train that China has created. The train will be suspended on the track by around 10 millimeters and may be kept suspended in the air throughout operation thanks to the strong magnetic field of the track. The speed of the medium and low-speed maglev trains can often reach 200 to 400 kilometers per hour, while the high-speed maglev train can go at a top speed of 620 kilometers per hour due to the reduction of friction caused by the wheels and the track. This high-speed maglev train will go more than twice as quickly as conventional high-speed rail. China has started to develop cutting-edge superconducting technology for fast maglev trains as of 2014. Until 2019, the first high-speed maglev train constructed by China was successfully completed and rolled off the production line in Qingdao. The high-speed maglev train that China successfully developed in this short period of time is equivalent to the level now attained by Germany and Japan. The high-speed maglev train, created by China, can travel at a maximal speed of 600 kilometers per hour, according to pertinent test results. You should be aware that the typical high-speed train travels at just 300 kilometers per hour. If this trend persists, China's high-speed maglev train is extremely likely to beat Germany and Japan and take the top spot in the global high-speed maglev train rankings. But a lot of people are perplexed by this. Given that it already has a high-speed rail system that is mostly developed, why does China continue to construct high-speed maglev trains? The benefits the high-speed maglev train will offer will be far larger than those of high-speed rail, which is why China has invested a lot of time and effort in developing it. China lagged behind other nations in the globe in terms of railway strength at the start of the 21st century. This has caused China's standard trains to deliver goods far more slowly than those in Western nations. Additionally, the actual carrying capacity of regular trains in China is subpar. Furthermore, China did not have high-speed rail technology in the beginning, making it challenging for it to compete with other nations in this area. In order to solve these deficiencies, China has purchased a significant amount of technology connected to the high-speed rail project and the high-speed maglev train project from Germany and Japan. In appearance, high-speed maglev trains appear to have just one speed advantage over high-speed rail, but in reality, they have many more benefits, particularly given the developments in China's transportation industry that make them significantly superior. This is especially true when compared to high-speed rail. On the basis of the successful completion of the high-speed rail project in China, it is anticipated that more breakthroughs may be accomplished in the future. It is important for you to be aware that ever since the high-speed rail project was integrated into daily life in China, the country's trains have been moving at a quicker pace and regional connection has been enhanced. In addition to exhibiting China's infrastructural prowess to the rest of the world, it fosters economic and commercial development, which is a positive development overall. Under these circumstances, the high-speed maglev train may become even more significant if complete promotion of the train could be achieved. Alterations of a considerable nature are on the horizon for the entirety of China's transportation system. It is also feasible for there to be economic expansion in any and all large and small cities that are located above the national land area. Because of the many advantages that could be gained, China decided to proceed with the development of new railway projects. It is essential, however, to keep in mind that in 2014 China presented an official blueprint for a plan to finish the construction of the high-speed maglev railway by 2019. The world's first high-speed maglev train debuted in China and passed its first test with flying colors in Qingdao. However, China has not taken any action to promote it even after all of these years have passed. Why does that hold true? Even though China is currently in possession of the technology necessary for high-speed maglev trains, there are still additional challenges that need to be addressed before this sort of train can be widely used in the country. First of all, while building the high-speed maglev train track, it is important to note that it is considerably different from conventional high-speed rail. To link with the electromagnets that will be employed later, a lot of concrete and rare metals must be used. The high-speed maglev train also requires the deployment of very advanced electrical machinery. These essential parts of apparatus call for a significant amount of research and development, in addition to enough testing time. The recently developed high-speed maglev train in China cannot be connected to the existing rail network at this time for several technical reasons. If you want to make frequent use of high-speed maglev trains, you will need to reintegrate and develop a strategy that is specific to the use of these trains. The establishment of a maglev train track that is 1 kilometer in length is estimated to have a minimum cost of $80 million and maybe much more than that. In this kind of scenario, the reconstruction of the thousands of kilometers of maglev train track over the majority of China will be incredibly costly. Investing a significant amount of money on maglev train lines is not only difficult, but also pointless to do so. Despite the fact that China was successful in developing the maglev train for extremely high speeds, in terms of technological development, it is still in its infancy. In the event that an extensive effort to educate the general public about this sort of train is started, driving can expose drivers to a range of possible safety hazards. It seems inconceivable that China would put its progress on the line by taking such a significant risk. Since this is the case, China's plan for a high-speed maglev train can only be put on hold until the technology is completely developed and shown to be trustworthy. What really important is that China now has a high-speed rail system that can essentially connect all of the country's regions. The majority of average people's current travel needs can be met by high-speed rail systems. If the high-speed maglev train becomes extensively utilized at the expected price, then the price of a launch ticket will not be less expensive than the price of a high-speed rail ticket, and it may even be more expensive than the price of a ticket for a commercial airplane. On the internet, word has quickly spread about the $700 million lost in China's railway development. Everyone knows that Saudi Arabia has to start building railroad projects right away. China, Germany, and Japan are all interested in working on initiatives to support Saudi Arabia. Build the railroad. Germany and Japan recently abandoned their plans to submit bids, leaving just China to do so. Why, therefore, did China lose $700 million as a result of building railways, given that it is a global leader in infrastructure development? What precisely is happening here? Before we go on, subscribe to Cha News to watch about the most shocking and amazing world projects. You won't regret it. Ready? Begin. China is renowned around the globe for being an infrastructure crazy, and its projects are progressing splendidly. As of now, the railway serves as both China's international calling card and the cornerstone of its economic development. In recent years, China has built more railroads than ever before. Additionally, China has constructed railways for other nations. China has helped build Ethiopian railways, roadside clinics, and other services, for instance. The majority of nations in the globe have praised China for its actions. Additionally, Saudi Arabia is a nation whose railways require improvement. As a result, Saudi Arabia and China have also agreed to collaborate on the Mecca Light Rail Train project. Mecca, which is located in Saudi Arabia and has a footprint of fewer than 760 square kilometers, is a holy site for Muslims. It is comparable in size to a typical Chinese county town. There are 1.79 million people living in the mountainous, steeply terrained Mecca area. Even though there are plenty of people, limited spaces, and a terrible atmosphere there, religious believers nonetheless congregate there every year. Millions of Muslims from more than 70 nations may congregate here during religious pilgrimages. This has caused Saudi Arabia to experience severe traffic issues. Particularly, Mecca's train system is inadequate, which causes traffic jams during the annual pilgrimage. Saudi Arabia lays a lot of importance on the yearly gathering of pilgrims in Mecca. Saudi Arabia has made the decision to construct the 18.25-kilometer Mecca Light Rail Line in order to significantly reduce the issue of traffic accidents during the pilgrimage. The railway to Mecca was built at a cost of $2.7 billion by Saudi Arabia. Many nations have responded to the tender because of the enormous amount of money. Japan and Germany are two among them. Germany, Japan, and other nations eventually decided not to bid. Because constructing a railway in a desert like Saudi Arabia is incredibly challenging and technically demanding. Only two businesses agreed to construct Saudi Arabia's Mecca light rail route after several negotiations and bids. The Saudi Railway Company, a local business in Saudi Arabia, is one of them, and China Railway Construction is the other. Saudi Arabia initially preferred to select homegrown firms. However, China's pricing quotes are incredibly low. Saudi Arabia ultimately decided to let China finish the project. What is the cost in China then? China has performed a thorough assessment of the overall construction difficulties and status of the Mecca light rail based on strict rules. The initial bid from China was $2.2 billion. But afterwards, China revised its calculations in an effort to secure this project. However, this estimation is based on the total cost of the Chinese light rail system in Guangzhou. China Railway Construction made a bid at a cost of $1.7 billion when the accounting was finished. It is $1 billion less than domestic Saudi Arabian businesses. China ultimately submitted the winning bid of $1.7 billion. The world was surprised when China successfully finished the building of the Mecca light rail train and also revealed the rationale for the astronomically expensive price for which no one had submitted a bid. The Mecca light rail train travels over the arid landscape. Despite having submitted the lowest price of $1.7 billion, China lost $700 million on the project due to the exceedingly challenging construction. China built the Mecca light rail system at a cost of $700 million, but it received reimbursement and accolades from Saudi Arabia, as well as high commendation from the rest of the world. How challenging is it for China to assist Saudi Arabia with the construction of the Mecca light rail? China predicts that the government would work hard to collaborate on a project this size, and that approval processes will move very quickly to maximize project construction efficiency. There is no such idea in the working environment of Saudi Arabia, since the internal environments of those two countries are very different. Because of their lengthy and difficult approval procedure, the engineering efficiency of the project as a whole has decreased, falling short of China's genuine expectations. Other than that, Mecca is unique from other places in terms of light rail construction. In the Mecca region, a very wide desert belt must be crossed by the light rail, creating a very hostile environment. This is also unusual in terms of China's current building level. The foundation is weak due to the uneven terrain that the entire railway has encountered. China must thus resolve three significant issues in the whole building process. The first one has a shaky roadbed, the second is quite windy and sandy, and the third is dry and warm. When Chinese engineers were faced with the challenge of an unstable roadbed, they evaluated the environmental features of raw materials and developed the entire project utilizing the geological attributes of Saudi Arabia. The walkways at the Mecca light rail construction site were extensively reinforced, and various impact rolling construction techniques were utilized to raise the thickness of the subgrade using a number of different components. After finishing a detailed design, the problem with the roadbed is eventually fixed so that it may be used again. China has formed a competent sand control team consisting of hundreds of personnel in order to do exhaustive and accurate calculations for places that are prone to large sandstorms. On either side of the railway, platforms measuring 40 meters in height were built. This was done for two reasons. First, to lessen the possibility that the railway would be attacked, and second, to make it possible for the railway project to be successfully completed and put into operation. It is possible for the daily temperature at the construction site in Saudi Arabia to reach approximately 70 degrees Celsius, which is highly hazardous to human health. Because they are working in such a dry and hot natural environment, Chinese construction workers often focus on their jobs in the morning and evening, or during periods of weather that are quite chilly. The performance of the overall railway building project has been unsatisfactory as a result of these challenges. As a result of the agreement that was struck between China and Saudi Arabia, the Mecca light rail system needs to be operational within 22 months. Therefore, China has to increase its investments in both its workforce and its infrastructure. In addition to the construction of the Mecca Railway in Saudi Arabia, China is also in charge of the construction of the North-South Railway in that country. However, in order for the Mecca Railway to be operational within the timeframe specified in the contract, China has ceased all other projects involving the construction of railways and redirected the majority of its personnel. Your assistance is needed in the building of the Mecca Light Rail project. After some time had gone, China's meticulous accounting revealed that China had contributed to Saudi Arabia's development of a light rail line to Mecca at a total loss of $700 million United States dollars. This was discovered after some time had passed. This information became available as a direct consequence of China's participation in the initiative. Nevertheless, American engineers are of the opinion that China is not experiencing any financial losses as a result of its actions. The Chinese economy is unquestionably in the red, but with the completion of this railway, China has shown the rest of the world what it is capable of doing in terms of infrastructure and the speed at which it can move things forward. They are vital components of modern-day China. Write in comments what opinion do you have about this project. Also, click on these videos to watch about another insanely shocking project.